Welcome to A Rabbi and a Lawyer Walk Into a Bar, a podcast with relatively well-informed and irreverent musings on religion, news, and society. And now, for your hosts, Rabbi Asher Lopatin and John Geringer.
Hey, John.
Asher, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I guess, not much is happening, so we thought, take a break.
I was prescient as always. Last time I said, where are you going next? Tehran. And next thing I know, Operation Rising Lion happens.
Yeah, those are the good old days. That was a long time ago.
It feels like forever ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, and I hope that Israel works more on their arrows, because the arrow 5, arrow 6, because it's like it costs $1 billion a day, apparently, those missiles in the Weizmann Institute and lives tragically. So,
But even Operation Rising Lion, right? They even based the name on Harsha and Balak.
yeah, Netanyahu has got a little bit of Torah in him. So, yeah.
Why don't you explain that?
Well, that's what the Balak was, the king of Moab. Not such a bad guy. He just didn't want Israel he was afraid of Israel. He wasn't like a vicious anti-Semite, actually. He was just afraid of Israel attacking him. So he hired a real anti-Semite, Bilam, who wanted to destroy the Jewish people. But the sources say, again, that Balak just wanted to get the Jews out of his way, out of his place, go somewhere else. But Bilam wanted to destroy the Jews, so he hired him to curse the Jewish people, and instead blessings came out. One of the blessings is Am Kilavi Yakum. This nation will rise like a lion. There's all this Esther and Purim imagery also, and saving the Jews from Persia, from evil edict.
The old Persian flag had a lion on it too.
Yeah,
So it's their rising up too, the old Persian.
Well, we were hoping that there'd be some rising up there. I mean, look, I don't know what I would do. It's scary there. They'll kill you if you rebel, even in their weakened state. But it's a little sad that no one really rebelled. Instead, what I read is that even a more zealous and crazy group is getting in, and they're hardliners. Like, Khamenei, he's not he's a sweetie pie.
That liberal?
Yeah, exactly. So look, Israel's probably gonna have to go in. America, again, it was a long time ago. There's a lot that's happened, but to see America let Israel go in, and then to America go in, and Trump to stand up to some of his Tucker Carlson crazies, went in and went out, and they didn't. Iran was afraid of America. I'm not going to Tehran, but I do want to get to Damascus, because a lot of people are saying, and please write in if you disagree, a little bit of hubris. Israel got a little bit of hubris. Thank God Israel defeated Hezbollah to a great extent, and then Iran, and there were no one came into their aid. And I think that gave Israel a little bit of too much hubris, that they could whip Syria's tuchus also, this, Islamist, and and bombing Damascus, I think, was a mistake. And just thinking that, again, this rising lion gave Israel the confidence. Thank God we needed confidence, but the idea that Israel can take on anybody, and we're the power, and look out for us. And really, Israel is in a very vulnerable place now. I mean, let's talk about all these countries that want to recognize a Palestinian state. I mean, I'm surprised. Jordan is a Palestinian state, everybody. Majority of Jordanians are Palestinian.
Yeah, we don't have to go back on the history of the UN plans and all that.
Yeah. I mean, Jordan, really, the mandate, the original British mandate, which according to our Eugene Kantarovich on Man,
great guy.
That is still the binding international law, that Palestine, that land, is all Palestine, Jordan and Israel. I say, yes, give them Jordan. And I guess that's what the French want, and the British and the Canadians. Israel isn't saying that because they don't really want Jordan to become a Palestinian state.
Well, that's a whole different thing. But I would encourage people to watch Eugene Kantarovich on YouTube. He gives some great presentations on the legal history of Israel.
Yeah.
and why they have the superior claim to the land. We don't have time to go through it today, but
Right.
it's something everyone could watch because it really flies in the face of a lot of what people think they know. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
like to brag about the November 29th,
Right.
1947, because
Not,
it's my
not,
birthday, not 1947, the UN partition plan, but it goes way back, as you said.
yeah. Not binding, that General Assembly, not binding at all. It's,
Correct. It's got to be
Remo,
done through the
San
Security
Remo.
Council.
I'm actually, look, Israel can just, Trump, I actually think, let me throw this out. I think Trump's foreign policy has been quite excellent. And he got India and Pakistan to stop fighting. He got Thailand and Cambodia, it seems, to stop fighting because he threatened them with sanctions. I love what he's doing with Brazil, slapping on 50% tariffs
Yeah, tariffs.
with Lebanon and Syria. And I think he has the right approach with Syria, which again, I wish Israel, look, what do I know? I'm a rabbi, but I think that Israel needs friends. I don't, even fake friends, phony, even Islamist friends. Just Israel needs friends. And I think Syria had that potential and still has that potential to be, for Israel to say, we have a peace treaty, we have a whatever normalcy, we have a non-belligerence treaty with someone. Israel needs that. Everyone in the world is against Israel. It's really tough.
It's interesting to see that when you see France, Canada coming out for Palestinian statehood, and yet in the same week you saw Arab countries condemning
Yeah,
Hamas in a way they hadn't
yeah,
done before. So the people who know Hamas best are the one condemning them, and yet
right.
France and Canada are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's why Israel needs to show that, exactly, that we're making peace with our neighbors, and all these people in America, all these politicians that are done with Israel and all that. Israel is the peacemaker, and Israel is the stabilizer of the Middle East. And that's why I think with Syria again, I mean, I know you have calculations. We want to split them up. We don't want them to be powerful. We're Islamism and all that. Right now, Iran still has proxies. They're the threat. And frankly, a world that is awash in Israel hatred and anti-Semitism is the threat. And here you have a Syria that Ilani, whatever you want to call him, Ashra'a, he's at least speaking nicely. You gotta grab at that. That's a lifeline for Israel right now. Maybe in a year, 5 years, you'll take him on or whatever.
I saw what he did to his Druze people.
No, you gotta listen to the Call Me Back, Dan Senor's podcast, and where he has a very nice British sounding expert. I don't know his name, but
Okay, what do you say?
real, this is a war, and I've heard this actually from a Syrian expert. I hope to have on the podcast in August, Radwan Ziadeh, and it's a battle between Bedouins and Druze, and it's true that one of the Druze tribes of the three leaders is close to the Druze leader in Israel. But the other two actually want to make peace with Shara, with the Syrian government. But this guy doesn't, and he's been fighting the Bedouins. And in fact, when Syrian troops went in, the Druze shot up and killed and chopped heads off of Syrian troops. I'll just say one other point. There's a little bit of my going on rant, but if the Islamist government was really pounding the Druze, then why did Israel say to them, okay, after it bombed Damascus and all that, okay, you can go in for 48 hours and make peace? That would be like in Sharon, let the phalangists into
Right?
sovereign Shatila, and it was a disaster, a
Saw
tragedy.
what happened there?
So this, if Israel really thought that the Islamist government was fighting the Druze, why did they tell them they could go in for 48 hours? Obviously, it's much more complicated, and it was a war between the Bedouins and the Druze. And I, the Druze are incredible in Israel. The Jews in Syria were not big friends of Israel under Assad.
Right, because the Druze typically are loyal to the state in which they sit.
Yeah. So now it's a little funny, and it's great to have them on Israel's side. That's great. When the Soviet Union was oppressing a million, 2 million Jews, Israel did not bomb Moscow. You got to
Well, that
be
would have been a bad idea considering they had 30,000 missiles.
so right. So you got to be a little strategic. Well, Syria is not the USSR, but still, just because they're my brothers, they're my Druze brothers, and I have to save them, okay, diplomacy, send them medical equipment. Doesn't mean you have to bomb Damascus. So, but I'm still trying to get a group to go to Damascus. So if you're out there listening, be in touch. We might try
Yeah.
to get a group together. I'm
Yeah, I
hoping.
like to keep my body parts attached to my body, so I'll be holding off on that. But thank you very much. Let's switch gears to how does one advocate for Israel when it sometimes feels difficult to do so in the face of the videos?
Yeah, yeah. Now, look, we understand that a lot of those. I mean, the New York Times, it's criminal. They show the picture of that baby from
Yeah.
with cerebral palsy or whatever.
And they're thinking about there's at least some discussions around actually suing them, which would be
Wow.
an interesting lawsuit. But it does look like they manipulated the pictures, they ignored key facts, like that person wasn't starving, they had, congenital illness and the like. And it really, everything points in the direction of condemning Israel. Like when
Yeah,
anyone makes mistakes, right, you're going to have mistakes 50-50. But when
right.
they make mistakes, it seems as if they are leaning toward being anti-Israel consistently.
Yeah. Now, I understand that Palestinians also hate the New York Times. Oh, they're too pro-Israel and all that. But it doesn't mean that just because Palestinians don't like it and the pro-Israel group don't, the pro-Israel people don't, that they must be getting it right. That's like the mistake that Harvard made. Like, they did these studies that, well, the Jews felt hurt and endangered, but Palestinians, Arab Americans also felt endangered. Well, there's a reality test. And we didn't see Jewish goons going all over and saying, if you're a Palestinian, you're not allowed to come into the library or whatever, we're going to kill you and all that
Right.
stuff. You just didn't see it. So just because Arab Americans don't like the New York Times, many of them, doesn't mean, and I agree with you, John, it's really so there's a discussion about we don't know what's going on, but it is true that the perception everywhere, including in the Jewish world in America, and including in, Amit Siegel and Haviv Retegur, some of the big voices are saying that there is beginning to be starvation. We're on the verge, we're on the cusp of starvation. I think that from the very beginning, Israel should have said, okay, flood the place with humanitarian aid, with food. I understand that Hamas is the vehicle for getting it there, and they're stealing it and they're selling it and they're using it. They're equipping themselves with it. I
Right.
thought actually Israel should have gone in and distributed the aid themselves, which is very dangerous and very risky. And tragically, we would have had many Israelis killed distributing aid to Palestinians like we've had. But you got to get that
The
humanitarian
optics would have been
aid.
better.
Yeah, you just got it, and it makes
And
the
because
war
it's also
hard.
true, right? Egypt isn't lifting a finger. Egypt has a more fortified barrier than we did.
Yeah,
And Hamas uses food as a weapon. And Hamas doesn't care about its own people. All of
right.
that is true. And yet the optics are bad.
Yeah, for Jews, they're bad. I'm getting congregants that are saying, "What can we do?" And actually, I spoke to our Senator Alyssa Slotkin, one of our senators,
Oh,
and with
she's great.
she's great. So with a Muslim friend, Dr. Al Hadidi, we got her to write a letter that said, "Look, Americans let aid into Fallujah, into Iraq and Afghanistan. We have to. Israel should let." Aid, especially, and this was just about baby formula and water, just whether there's a ceasefire or not. Like, I don't like the people that say there has to be a permanent ceasefire right now. No, but whatever it takes, whether it takes letting Hamas bring it in, whatever, you got to get that. And it's unfortunate Israel, didn't, Netanyahu, that they're letting aid in. They are letting aid in,
Yeah.
but it was sort of a misstep, like a week ago or a few days ago. There have been accusations of starvation the whole time, but it seems that this time it's real. But it's only been that way for a week or two or three, and they've tried to do this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and even they admit it's not enough. It's not, they've given out 90 million meals. Israel's slow. It's sort of like that hospital that people claimed Israel bombed, and it took Israel like a little too long to make sure that to say that it was really Hamas.
Right. Well, Hamas doesn't care about the facts. Israel has to be careful about the facts because
Right.
the minute it says something wrong, it'll be amplified, right? And the problem is you're creating this whole young generation, certainly here in the States and elsewhere, of Israel haters. And
Yeah.
we've seen these attacks around the world. We saw what happened in Vienna, where, of all places, right, for a
Yeah.
musician to be kicked out of the restaurant, little things like that, but also more serious things around the world. And it's igniting these embers that were there before. And
Yeah.
I think somehow, some way, Israel and the diaspora have to hold hands together to figure out how to better calibrate what's happening.
Yeah, you really remind two things. One is that I hope people went to that restaurant and smashed the windows. It's ridiculous. Like, come on, get a little bit
We
of
don't do
muscle,
that, Asher.
Jews.
We don't do it.
I mean, remember what happened in UCLA? It took the Persian Jews, the Iranian Jews, to start beating up these encampments, and that put an end to them. I'm just surprised, like, oh, this restaurant. How does anyone dare to do that? No one should dare to mess with the Jews. There's an Archie Bunker clip. I don't know if you've seen it on your Facebook where he says you don't mess with the Jews because the Israeli Air Force will blow you up or
Yeah.
something. We got to get a little bit tougher. I know we've been really good with lawsuits. That's so Jewish.
And accounting.
And accounting.
But look, as you know, I'm working with the Shomrim, the guards at our synagogue and elsewhere, and with groups, and we should get some folks on the podcast to do some of this,
Yeah.
where they're training up people, how to
Yeah.
use firearms, how to do martial arts, how to do things like that. We all have to up our game. And
I
I'm
hope
not
that
saying we go
restaurant,
out and act like thugs, but we certainly need to know how to defend ourselves better.
I want that restaurant torched, not with people in it, but torched. And blame me for causing that,
I think we're going to have to cut that out.
No,
As
look.
your lawyer, I don't want that to be Exhibit A.
Do not do anything illegal, but somehow. But
Maybe light a candle, a
yeah.
symbolic candle outside.
Okay. It gets knocked over by accident. Yeah. I think also in the olden days, I remember what was the president of the Federation,
Nassiter.
Steve Nassiter would say, like, when it comes to Israel, this was probably in the 90s, 96, 97. When it comes to Israel, we'll give lots of advice, but when it involves anything doing with security with Israel or military strategy, we as Americans, we don't say anything. So we used to say that, but now I think we are on the front lines. First of all, my son, God willing, on Monday is going to be going into the Israeli army, the IDF.
Wow. Does
Many
he
of
know
us
what
have
unit, or we can't talk about that?
tanks. Yes, yes,
Wow.
yeah.
Like Sharon,
Ah, Kanai Hara. Um,
right?
but
Wasn't he a tanker?
that makes sense. Yeah, reading Wild Man Sharon, but who disengaged from Gaza, but
Now, my opa, my grandpa, was also a tanker. Unfortunately, he served on the wrong team in World War II, but we're not going to talk about that again.
wow. Did he survive the war?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Wow.
knew him. I knew him growing up. He was my
Wow.
opa. I
Was he
have
in
pictures of him wearing the wrong uniform.
the Battle of the Bulge?
I hope not, because my dad was liberated at the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That
Oh
would be
my
really
God.
awkward.
Wow. What an amazing history. Wow. Wow. So we're, first of all, a lot of our kids in America, kids are in the or go to Machal, or they go to Hesder, or they go to the army, the Israeli army. And also, like you said, we're on the front lines, whether in Washington or Boulder or wherever we are, or our synagogues, with the Shomrim, we're just as not the same extent. We don't have missiles being shot at us. We don't have Hamasniks right in our our doorsteps, but we are fighting the same war. So I think we do have a right to give Israel advice. Like, they don't have to listen to it. They don't have to listen to Ashel Patton, John
Y-
Geringer. Maybe
Yeah,
they should.
I'm not so sure I'm the kind of military expert they care about.
But we do have a right to say, look, PR wise, this looks terrible, and morally, it's very complicated because I mean, I really do think it's complicated. The children are innocent,
Of
but
course.
the Palestinians, they haven't. We haven't heard of any of them helping any of the hostages. We haven't heard of any of them giving up the locations of the hostages. Where Israel's fighting not just Hamas, but it's still a hostile population there, which is really tough. So but I think that we gotta flood. And I heard Jonathan Shanzer on the commentary podcast, one of our competitors. They
Stop talking about other podcasts.
I know. So he was saying flood it with food, and then he
Yeah.
has an idea of the Israeli army, moving on. I think that I'll just say one other thing, John, that I think Netanyahu missed a cue from Trump when Trump talked about let's get all the innocent people out of Gaza. And Egypt needs to do it. Maybe Israel needs to bomb Egypt, bomb Cairo instead of Damascus, and tell them you've got to let in 2 million innocent Palestinians into Sinai, and we'll set up camps for them, and we'll feed them, and we'll have medical facilities, and it won't be crammed. And then Israel can fight Hamas.
Is
And
this the same rabbi I had in the 90s who was protesting foie gras? And now you're
I
talking about
know,
bombing?
I know, I've really come a long way, baby. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But the
Times
geese
they
are
are a
innocent.
changing.
The geese are innocent. The geese have not harmed anybody.
Well, let's talk about we're on the eve of Tisha B'Av,
Yeah,
this really
yeah,
sad holiday at the pinnacle of the 3 weeks. How do you think
unbelievable.
about it?
Well, I think we're really, I mean, I think with all this, we know Israel is strong and resilient, and it's a little different than on the eve of Jeremiah, on the eve of the Babylonians coming in, or Yochanan ben Zakkai seeing the Romans come into the city and destroy it. But on the other hand, we still have division amongst our people, and it's like a three-layered war. We have the
And
war
that's
that
why the second temple was destroyed, Sinas Chinam, right?
yeah.
Baseless hatred, which is one of the events that occurred on Tisha B'Av.
Absolutely. And so we just really have to, people talk about this polarization, and somehow we have to, it sounds trite and cliche, but we got to come together. And what's scary is that we have the enemies of Israel, like Hamas and Iran and Houthis and all that. And then you get all the anti-Semites that are horrific, that are not letting Zionists in. You read Stanford, and horrific. There's just so much vision and rock concerts, and like you said, restaurant, everything. So you have Israel threat, and you have anti-Semitism at it. Really, it feels like an all-time high, and you have divisions within us, and frankly, people like the Israeli government. You have the Ben Gvirs and the Smotriches, and I'm sorry to our listeners who are big fans of them, but
Right.
so you get it from inside also, and that's really scary. We can take on our external enemies, like all the Arab forces that tried to destroy Israel in 48. And we can even fight the anti-Semites because we are strong, but internally we got to be stronger. It's scary. I don't know. How do you feel about this, John?
Yeah, it's the same thing. You feel like everywhere you turn, all those things that we mentioned, that where you're experiencing this visceral hatred against not just Israel, because obviously Israel is sort of the foil for
Mm-hmm.
broader Judaism, and it's allowing anti-Semitism to flourish in a way that maybe normally wouldn't in polite company. You just exchange Jewish for Zionist, and it's easy to be
Yeah.
anti-Semitic. And so, but at the same time, I'm trying to find those glimmers of hope, right? They say that Moshiach will be born on Tisha B'Av, sort of as a
Mm-hmm.
metaphor when times seem the darkest. That's where
Right.
the light's going to come out. I'm still hoping for Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords.
Yeah.
I'm still seeing, if I told you a year ago that Hezbollah would be weakened like it is, that Iran would be weakened like it is, that you'd have Arabs coming out against Hamas, that that the schools that engaged in the anti-Semitism would be paying up big time. If
Yeah.
I told you all those things, you'd say I was crazy. And yet here we are. As we always talk about on this podcast, we can hold two ideas at the same time. right? That
Yeah.
both the positive and the negative, and our job is how to balance and have those coalesce and deal with them together and not go insane.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is, well, first we have Huckabee as ambassador. I mean, I'm sorry, I love the guy. You know, he's talking about the French should make the Palestinian state on the Riviera. I mean, like,
Right. Yeah,
massive
pretty
stuff.
snarky stuff for an ambassador, right?
Yeah. And he whipped some of those crazy, zealous Jew. I mean, it wasn't so crazy. The Israeli government was not letting Christians in the country. The biggest Zionists are the
Yeah.
Christians, whatever their motives are. Okay, whatever, whatever, and not letting them in. And they're not proselytizing everybody. And so he dealt with that. And also, I saw that TikTok now, their chief hate officer in charge of fighting hate was in the IDF. She's a woman. She's a Zionist. That says a lot. That says a lot that the Chinese are realizing that their future does not rest with the anti-Israel crowd. And TikTok, one of the accusations was that their algorithm was really sending people much more the anti-Israel message, like 10
Yeah.
times pro-Israel.
Well, especially because we are only what, a quarter of 1% in the
Right.
world.
Right.
So there's a
Right.
lot more of them than there are of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So now maybe this has changed. Maybe you're right. There is some positivity. Now, the other thing that's interesting that Tisha B'Av commemorates is when the Jews said, you know, we're too weak to enter the land of Israel. We don't want to go to the Jews in the wilderness. The Israelites said, nah, stay here. We can't go. They're going to kill us. And so it is a Zionist holiday, Tisha B'Av. You can't say you're too weak when you have that opportunity to get into the land of Israel and to have your own state. Now, I realize there are many that in the ultra Orthodox world that might not agree with this, but you know, you got to seize that opportunity. And so we are blessed that, as opposed to Tisha B'Av, people are making Aliyah. We have a great family, Anshe Shalom family, the Fains,
Oh yeah.
are leaving Detroit for Israel. Now, some people say that's not, what comedian would say, that's not Aliyah when you go from Detroit. When you go from Teaneck
I was
to,
gonna say, is that a push or a pull?
no, Detroit, Huntington Woods is paradise. It's wonderful here. But you know, many families are making Aliyah. It's incredible, and you know they have to pull out Nefesh B'Nefesh. Has to lease more airplanes to get these people to Israel.
Wow, pretty incredible. Are you feeling your congregants? I know I am. In summer, I tend not to go to synagogue as much. I sleep in later. Is that common? Do you see that a lot?
No, not at all. No, no. They're actually the numbers that people are sleeping in later. I think it is. Some people are coming later. We're seeing that there's the
I feel like I get a get out of shul free card in the summer for some reason.
well, you know, it's you work hard and you're on the board, no?
No, I've
Oh,
done that
no,
once.
really? Okay, but are you in Shomrim?
I am
Okay, well, you Shomrim, so you show up for your slot, no?
usually.
Okay, we're gonna cut that. I don't want to,
We don't
endanger
want the bad guys
security.
to know when I won't be there. We do have
Exactly.
armed guards. Don't worry, we'll be
Okay,
fine.
good, good.
We're
Yeah,
just supplemental.
you know, I Judaism, and that's the sad thing. It should be fun. I think we're filled with so much angst. Israel, and if you go there, and we have two kids there now, our daughter's there also on a post-birthright program, and it's wonderful. And Judaism, shul, everything should be just wonderful. It shouldn't be it's schwer zu sein a Yid, and so
Hard to be a Jew.
yeah. So trying to but my Rachel always says that like the 9 days, right? You have the Tisha B'Av, you have these 3 weeks before the ninth of Av, then you have 9 days where you're not supposed to swim and you're not supposed to, and go to
Right.
shows. In the middle of the summer, the hottest time of the year, don't go swimming. So
Yeah, and especially this year where you had to kill 2 Sundays with fast days.
unbelievable, unbelievable. But we're strong. We're strong people, and sometimes this suffering makes us a little bit happy. So maybe that's also a silver line. It makes us more resilient.
No, I forgot. Are you a good faster?
when I'm doing things, I'm a very good faster. When I'm not doing anything, it's hard. But I think, and I wonder if a lot of shuls are going to do this because I heard this from another shul is we're going to have an hour session at least to talk about Israel and how we feel and our frustrations and with whom? With the New York Times, with the media, with Israel, with Netanyahu, and so it'll be interesting. I think we're really going to have that discussion. So, doing some stuff, Holocaust stuff and some Israel stuff. It's going to be a blast.
We
Yeah. Are you
right.
guys?
So you can't
Yeah.
eat or drink, can't engage in
Right.
relations, can't wear leather shoes, can't bathe. Did I miss
Right.
anything?
Yeah. You can do pretty well. Yeah. Yeah. That's
I think I
so.
got them all.
And can't learn Torah. Actually, you can't learn happy Torah. You can learn Torah like the book of Jeremiah. You can read the laws of mourning, all that kind of fun stuff. But
Break that book out, dust it off,
right,
right?
yeah. But really, you put the book of Job. Welcome to study Job. So
And we
Torah
can
is
watch any movie we want about the Shoah, right?
exactly, yeah, any sad movie. And it's really that the idea Torah makes you happy. Torah is really supposed to make you happy. And so we don't want to be that happy and that joyous. And I think that one of the amazing things that the rabbis interpret is that yes, the temples were burned, and Beitar was burned in 130 CE. There's the last fortress of the rebellion of the 130 CE. But the temples were burned, but the Jewish people lives on, and that's one of the lessons of Tisha B'Av. Like, yeah, they'll try to destroy us, but God is not going to let that happen. So and then we've sort of seen that this last year and a half, as tragic as it's been, really.
Yeah, will there be special keynotes, special words said about October 7th? Do you think that'll be baked into the liturgy?
It's interesting. I think we did that last year, and yeah, we did several of them last year. And it's a little different feeling now, but our hostages are still, that's what's really sad. I think we actually maybe had more hope a year ago for getting the hostages out. And
Right.
there's even it's hard. I heard, Witkoff is flying to Israel, I think, or something. So I just, I wish at this time we had a little bit more good news. I know we're trying to find a little bit of good stuff.
I'm
And
trying to out Usher.
I know I'm in a little bit of a funk. That's why I'm in touch with the Syrian Foreign Ministry and trying to, say, no, no, there's going to be a lot of love, a lot of love. We're going to shower it with love. And I'll tell you the fact that I could work with a Muslim leader on a letter that, Alyssa Slotkin put out that really is not political. And in fact, when one of the articles, my Muslim counterpart talks about the hostages must come home and how terrible October 7th was. So there's a little bit of hope. There's a little bit of hope there that, we're all, and this idea of not letting people starve, and that's not emphasized enough. Everyone is moving. Maybe Israel needed a push, but Israel is moving and everyone is trying to get food to innocent people. So the truth is there really is a consensus in the world about that. But, we'll see where that war effort goes. It's really, it's a frustrating time. But number one thing, families. I mean, I heard about Rabbi Stav spoke today on another podcast, another webinar
There
that
you go again.
I know too much, but some families aren't talking to each other, and I don't talk. You don't have to talk politics, that's for sure, but talk to each other. Reach out to each other, love each other. And we're not going to solve any problems by not talking to each other.
Well, sounds like a good lesson to get into the Tisha B'Av spirit.
Please God, look, John, and I know that Mariah does Tisha B'Av like few shuls do.
That's right. It is our jam.
Yeah. Do you guys sit on the floor?
The whole thing. Sit on the
Yeah.
floor, with lights,
Yeah.
people bringing flashlights and things like that. We're
Yeah.
going to do some singing this year. Yeah, we know how to do sad.
That's great. I remember there were fights that broke out. God bless him. Mel Shapiro said, "No, I need more light. Turn on those lights." Even on Tisha B'Av, there's a little bit of tension.
Yeah, we're still human and we're still Jewish.
And one of the laws is you're not supposed to say, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah, that's always a weird thing because you're in shul with a bunch of people who you may haven't seen in a long time because of the summer, and you
Right.
give them, and some people don't know about that rule, so you kind of give them the nod and don't want to really say hi, don't want to look rude.
Right. So maybe it's the idea is that hopefully you feel a loss when you can't say hello to someone and you have to make it up somehow, maybe give some hugs or handshakes or some warm fist pumps, something like that. But John, really, I hope that, like you said, the Moshiach, Messiah, was born on Tisha B'Av at the lowest point. So hopefully, there'll be good things ahead. And this feels like we're hitting a low with Nebuch, Canada. They say they'll recognize a Palestinian state, but God willing, we're gonna reach new highs.
And so if Moshiach comes, do we still do the podcast? How does that work?
Oh yeah, then we really soup it up, I think. Then we go into
That would be a guest.
That's right.
He might be busy, or she might be busy doing other things, but we'll try to see if we can snag him.
Terrific.
Or
Well, John, I'm already just comforted talking to you and that we can still laugh at difficult times. And hopefully the next podcast, our hostages will miraculously be home and maybe we'll have peace with Syria and Lebanon and Saudi Arabia and whatever it takes. We will pray hard.
wow. Amen v amen.
Okay.
I second that emotion.
Okay. John, take care. Have an easy fast.
You the same.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of A Rabbi and a Lawyer Walk Into a Bar. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to get our next episode delivered right to you. If you really like us, please consider leaving a review and sharing this with a friend. That would really help our efforts. And finally, to contact us and for more show-related information, please visit our website, rabbilawyerbar.com. Special thanks to our production team, David Stone for the introduction music, Andrew Bauman for the artwork, and I'm Nicholas Tantillo. This podcast is co-produced with Front and Social Studios in Chicago. Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Copyrighted material, all rights reserved.